Hello there. It's your humble Rōnin here with another live episode of Lounge Rōnin. All things, everything. If you're new to the channel, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. And on this episode, we're going to discuss Pope Joan, the one and only woman to serve as Pope. This is going to be a little bit of an interesting twist on the history of Christianity and the Vatican. So let's get into it. Now, I decided on covering this. It's a rather old story, but I think it's important to bring to light if it's not familiar with a lot of people out there who are followers of Christianity. Perhaps this is not an aspect of Christian history that you're familiar with. And I think it's important to shed light on all aspects of religion, especially the aspects that tend to be suppressed from us. So let's get into it. Now, this article is written by Ed Whelan. Like I said, it's an old one from 2018. I'm surprised it's not as popular and well known, but hey, this is how it tends to be with such renowned breakthroughs. So, researchers from an Australian university have announced in a press release major discovery in relation to the existence of a female pope in the early Middle Ages. For a long while, experts believed that the existence of popes was a myth. However, experts now claim that there are coins that demonstrate that there was an actual female pope. The figure of Popess Joan has become an icon for feminism and a hope for gender equality. Now, settle down, Ed. I don't think that's the case. I can assure you, not in this era. Whether this figure was ever real or is a pure legend of thus relevant and important in today's world. I mean, listen, Ed, these women nowadays, these feminists, they ain't going to be following no female pope. They ain't going to be doing that. That is not their forte. This finding could have immense importance, as not only will it confirm a twist in the history of the Catholic Church in the Middle Ages, but also has implications for the future development of the largest Christian denomination in the world. Here we have a drawing of Pope Joanna by John's Ennekel from 1420. Interesting. Let's continue. The life of Pope Joan. There have long been claims that a talented and capable woman disguised herself as a man in 9th century Rome. ABC News, she is thought to have grown up in the town of Mainz, Germany. And with the support of her lover, she became a deacon and rapidly rose through the church hierarchy. Now, I would speculate that if she had a lover and she was able to fast track her way through priesthood, I would say that her lover must have been someone of great influence within the Christian community at that time. Just a speculation. It is reported that she eventually became pope. One day while she was leading a religious procession, she suddenly stopped and began to give birth, to the shock of Rome. That must have been one hell of a spectacle. That definitely would have been trending on Twitter. The female pope was arrested and she was thrown in jail. In some accounts, she was later executed with her name being removed from the papal rolls. That is how the story has been written, and numerous images exist from after the event but hard evidence to corroborate this event has been missing, or has been until now. So here we have a woodcut illustration of Pope Joan, dated 1473, the day that she gave birth, while doing a religious procession. I can't imagine what that conversation must have been like with her staff. Like that's like the equivalent of like sending like Rihanna out there to do a press hearing for like her new, fashion, product or whatever, and like she just ends up giving birth like right there during the press conference. Like that's crazy to like force someone who is like on the verge of giving birth to go out and do a procession and bless the people. It's wild. She really needed, I don't know, that's just like, what's funny about it to me is that there's clear evidence in terms of drawings that this event happened. Because obviously there are people to witness it, but then how typical of a large entity such as the Vatican to suppress and remove any documentation regarding her. But, word spreads and it's hard to erase everything, I imagine. But at the exact same time, one thing I find really fascinating about this is that there had to have been more people, there must have been enough people within the Vatican to have known. I mean, it's like you can't really hide being pregnant. You can't hide that. Like that's just impossible to hide. So there had to have been, I don't know, maybe she was forced into doing it in the hopes of exposing her as a woman, and then the Vatican could then take control of the situation and suppress it. You never know. One thing that I'm just, I'm thinking about is the fact that like we don't really know the truth in terms of how the Vatican really operated during those times, because, they're such a secretive entity. I mean, they have miles and miles worth of libraries in the basement that no one's allowed to peek into. It's just something to keep in mind. And let's not forget that the Vatican, there have been numerous incidents of popes being assassinated, or I should say, bishops who were in line to being the pope being assassinated in favor of a different pope. Maybe one day we'll look into that, but it is something that has happened. Let's continue. The examination of coins. Researchers at Flinders University, Australia, have been studying coins from the 1850s AD. They are mostly Frankish coins, and they typically have the portraits of the emperor and the popes. The researchers argue that only real historical figures were represented on the coins, which were known as denarii and made from silver. For example, there are coins that represent popes, such as Leo and Nicholas, who are real figures and regarded as legitimate pontiffs by Catholic Church to this day. The Australian study has found coins that represent Pope Joannes in the mid-850s. They were dated based on stylistic and geographical examination of the coins. The coins had been inscribed with the name of Pope Joannes Anglicus. This was a name that the female pope used according to medieval narratives. Moreover, there is a distinctive monogram on the coins, and these could be based on the signature of the female pope. So we have here the coins, and it says monogram of Joannes Anglicus, the female pope of Ainhans. S above, 0 below. Designed in a square with classic ancient rims, usually three-dimensional design, stylistic dating 856 to 858 AD. So, I mean, now you have actual hard evidence rather than anecdotal evidence and, drawings of a alleged birth on the streets in Rome. Which is kind of ironic too. You would think, ooh, all right, put on your conspiracy here for a second. All right, what if? All right, what if? Take a sip of your kufi juice. What if that baby was like some sort of religious icon? And what happened to the baby? Like, what if that baby was someone important or someone dangerous and they had to erase it from the history books? I'm just saying, it's entirely speculative. Entirely speculative. Hold on, let me fix something here. Okay. All right. I fixed that. Let me pull back up the article. All right. So there are the coins with Pope Joannes. So as I was saying, we have the coin. One thing that just kind of popped in my mind, now that we have actual evidence with these coins that are found that have her sigil essentially on it. Unknown caller. Who's calling? Okay, sorry about that. So we have these coins. We now have actual evidence. We were looking at the drawings because there were eyewitness accounts of this female pope giving birth during a a religious progression in Rome at the Vatican. So here you have this picture of the woman giving birth, Joanna. Now, something that popped into my head was what happened to the baby. That's the real interesting thing that I was thinking about. And I have read along in this article, they don't talk about the baby, but I'm going to look into it. I'm kind of curious about this. What happened to Joanna's baby? They say that allegedly she was executed and they removed all history of her from the papal. But what about the baby? What happened to the baby? Was this baby of significance? Perhaps this baby was some sort of religious entity in terms of like a figurehead. Maybe it was the son of Satan. Who knows? Who knows? Like I said, put on your kufi hat, take a sip of that kufi juice. We got to look into what happened to Joanne's baby. I might actually do some research into that. And I might find absolutely nothing. And if that's the case, then that's the case. But this is very interesting. Let's continue. The dating of the coin from the 1850s would seem to prove that there was a popus when there is a gap in the official papal lists. This lends credence to the stories that Pope Joanne's name was removed from official documents. It is argued by researchers that the female pope reigned between 856 and 858 AD. This would place her reign between the pontificates of Benedict III and Nicholas I. The team of experts justified their claims that there existed a female pope by also referencing historical documents. The chronicler claims that a woman was crowned pope in 856, and in another chronicle, it is reported that an Anglo-Saxon king visited Pope Joannes Anglicus. A modern historian has also discovered a letter addressed to Pope Joannes from 856 that was wrongfully filed under the name of a later pope with the same name. What are the odds of that? If you're not familiar, they oftentimes, they'll name the pope Nicholas the Third, Constantine the Eighth, whatever. So this is really interesting, and this is what's so fascinating about this is that this was a myth, a legend for hundreds of years, and now all it took was a couple coins and a wrongfully filed letter, and now we have confirmation that there was a popess, a female pope. And it just makes me think of this really great quote from Star Wars. There's always a bit of truth in legends, and here you're witnessing that as the case. So this is something that I think for anyone out there who's interested in, as I like to put it, researching and learning about the hidden history. And if you're someone of the Christian faith, you may want to look more into this. You may want to, take a chance and inquire at your local church. Ask your priest, hey, do you know anything about this? And see what kind of response and reaction you get, especially if you provide evidence to your case. For anyone out there, please give it a shot and let me know down in the comments section how it goes. Let us continue. Okay, the importance of Pope Joan. If the researchers' conclusions are accepted, this could be potentially revolutionary. At present, the Catholic Church does not ordain a woman as priest. There are many who claim that this is morally wrong and that females have every right to become priests. If that women be allowed to become priests, however, wait, hold on, sorry, I think I missed a sentence. There are many who claims that this is morally wrong and that females have every right to become priests. If there existed a female pope, then this could strengthen the argument of those who demand that women be allowed to become priests. However, this is likely to face great opposition from the usually conservative... Okay, hold on a second, guys. Sorry about that, guys. Apologies. When one job calls, the other one answers, right? All right, so what were we at? We were at, okay. There are many who claims that this is morally wrong and that females have every right to become priests. If there existed a female pope, then this could strengthen the argument of those who demand that women be allowed to become priests. However, this is likely to face great opposition from usually conservative hierarchy in the Catholic Church. The Catholic Encyclopedia states that Joan was a myth and that her existence was noted by none of the numerous historians from the 10th to the 13th century. These findings would allow us to have a different understanding of the Dark Age papacy. The evidence from the coins would seem to back up some documentary evidence and show us that Pope Joan was not a legend but had some basis in historical fact. The findings of the study are currently presented in German in a book by Michael E. Hochbich, with English version currently being prepared. Now, this was in 2018, so I'm sure the English version is out there. So perhaps maybe we might do a follow up. I might look into it and see if we get any information about the baby. I just want to know what happened to the baby. That's my biggest question. What was the fate of the baby? I mean, if the mother was executed, all right, but what about the baby? I mean, it doesn't say anything that they executed the baby. What if that baby was someone important? What if they kept the baby, right? Raised it in the Vatican and train, groom that child into becoming a pope because out of some sort of weird, twisted religious idea. I don't know. There's something about this that's very interesting to me. Also, okay, how did she get pregnant? Was it the same lover that helped her become pope? I mean, if that's the case, what about him? Who was the lover? So many questions. I have a lot of interesting questions. I may look more into this because I actually kind of find it pretty interesting. And I also have a feeling that I'm probably not going to get much out of it, but out of sheer curiosity, I'm going to. But, what do you guys think about this? What are your thoughts on this idea that there was a female pope? I mean, it is interesting that many religions really tend to be, they're, monotheistic, but they have this sense around them of being very, very masculine and not necessarily balancing themselves out with the femininity. And, the further back you go, the more you realize how important the femininity of religion was important to the polytheistic religions. This is just something that I think we as humans and those who practice various faiths, we need to really look into that. This lack of giving credit and representation to the femininity that comes within religion, and that is also part of God. Something that I find very interesting. And I think people out there should really ask themselves these questions. And I say don't be afraid to ask your local church, wherever you go to. Temple, what it may be, monastery. Go, ask questions, inquire, try to find out these things. There's nothing wrong with asking questions, and if they dismiss you and if they push back in a manner that's, antagonistic or disrespectful or belittling, then you're on to the right track. That means you're on to something, and that means you need to keep on asking the right questions. And that concludes this episode of Lounge Rōnin. All things, everything. If you're new to the channel, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. And until next time, stay positive, stay focused, stay true, and much love.